Tamil Ai kings of South India have an ancient history going back over 2000 years to the Tamil Sangam era. This kingdom is even mentioned in the European sailor maps of the 1st and 2nd century AD. In the second lineage of these Ai kings, Ko Karunandadakkan sets up a university called Parthivasekarapuram Salai over 1,000 years ago to produce experts in the field of government administration and law. Fortunately for us, we have epigraphical evidence that sheds light on some very interesting details about this university and what was taught here. Let us go on a brief journey of discovery to examine some of these details and to look at what happened to that advanced educational system over time. India achieved independence from colonial rule in 1947. After independence, it was only in 1956 that the states of today were created along linguistic lines. Till then, today's Kanyakumari district was within the Travancore Cochin state. At that time, the Travancore government secretariat offices in Thiruvananthapuram was referred to as the Hazur secretariat offices. Languishing in these offices were a set of copper plates. No one knew their origins or how the plates got to the offices. It was only in 1908 that T.A. Gopinatha Rao, the well-known epigraphist, deciphered and published a copy of these copper plates. He referred to the plates as the Hazur copper plates in recognition of where they were kept. The inscriptions in these plates revealed information about a university called Parthivasekarapuram Salai in present-day Kanyakumari district of Tamil Nadu, set up over 1,000 years ago, that specialized in teaching of government administration services, much like today's IAS system. There have been ancient universities larger and more famous than Parthivasekarapuram Salai in the South Indian Tamil kingdoms, like the Kanchi Gatikasthanam in the Pallava kingdom and Kandalur Salai in the Chera kingdom. However, we have no detailed information on them, except for a few inscriptional and literary references here and there. However, because of these Hazur copper plates, we have detailed information about Parthivasekarapuram Salai and perhaps a window into the educational system of over 1,000 years ago. Let us look at two specific details mentioned in the plates: the admission requirements and the course syllabus. The plates contain the following lines: Ipravesagam seyyum parisu Vayagarana Mimaya Purohita Punpaibu Vishram Ilan Trairajya Vivagaratthirku Vendum Ottudayan Idu Satyam என்று ஐவர் சட்டரை கொண்டு பஞ்சக்கம் செய்தான் புகவு பெறுவான். These lines refer to three requirements for the students who want to gain admission into this university. The first requirement is Vyakaranam, which refers to Sanskrit grammar. The second requirement is Mimayam, which refers to Purva Mimamsa, that deals with the methods of performing Vedic yagas, such as the Ashwamedha Yaga, for the benefit of the kingdom. The third requirement is Purohitam, which refers to the knowledge of Vedic rituals performed within the home. Aspiring students had to demonstrate that they met these three requirements with proficiency by getting certificates of recommendation from 5 sattars or experts in these subject areas. So in effect, the students had to be proficient in the Vedas. Besides the admission requirements, the plates also mention the course syllabus taught in this university as follows: இச்சாலைக்கு பெய்த கலத்தில் பவிழிய சரணத்தாருடைய கலம் 45, தைத்திரிய சரணத்தாருடைய கலம் 36, தலவாகார சரணத்தாருடைய கலம் 14, இனி வரும் கலம் 3 சரணத்தாருக்கும் ஒப்பது. So, this university was set up with an initial funding for 95 seats. These seats were divided into 3 specializations as follows. The study of Paviliyam had 45 seats, the study of Taitriyam had 36 seats, and the study of Talavakaram had 14 seats. Scholars believe that these are 3 specializations in the broad field of Dharma Sutras. Dharma Sutras are the ancient law books of India and are built on a foundation of the Vedas. They mainly dwell upon a code of standard conduct for every individual so as to have a stable society that is rooted in righteousness. Topics covered include government structure, taxation, foreign policy, civil and criminal law, organization of society into 4 classes or varnas, the ideal life stages or ashramas, educational regulations, dietary regulations, rules for sannyasa, daily rituals, funerary practices, succession planning, city planning, commerce, and a range of other topics. According to Professor S.C. Banerjee, an expert on Dharma Sutras, there were 38 different Dharma Sutra texts in India. Most of these had their origin sometime between 500 BC and 400 AD. The most important among these are Manusmriti, Yajnavakya Smriti, Gautama Dharma Sutra, Baudhayana Dharma Sutra, Abhastamba Dharma Sutra, Asvalayana Dharma Sutra, Vasishta Dharma Sutra, and Vaikansa Sutra. They all discussed similar topics, but had minor and sometimes major differences in how they specified acceptable rules of society, perhaps to accommodate what was deemed acceptable in the kingdoms and societies of their time. So in a sense, the laws evolved over time to suit society, just like today. So what happened to the study and practice of Dharma Sutras in India? Well, Dharma Sutras were specifically created for a monarchy form of government, where a strict form of top-down control of society was enforced, with the king as the supreme authority. The study and implementation of Dharma Sutras was spread across all major kingdoms of India. The story of Manunidhi Chola, the famous Tamil king from the 2nd century BC, is an example of the antiquity of the use of Dharma Sutras in South India. However, as monarchies fell and India transitioned to Islamic and eventually to British colonial rule, the importance of the ancient Dharma Sutras faded away. Instead, the British colonial power created a legal and administrative framework that was favorable to rule Indians as colonial subjects and to easily extract and take away the wealth of the land. However, towards the end of their rule, as the independence movement picked up steam and there was mounting pressure for self-governance, a more democratic framework started taking shape, culminating in the Government of India Act of 1935. Some of us mistakenly believe that the British brought democratic laws to India. But the truth is that the colonial power tried to derail the march towards democracy at every step. The most devious attempt was in creating deep communal divisions in India by creating laws for separate electorates, primarily along religious lines, so as to create divisions and weaken the unity in the independence movement. These efforts eventually led to religious polarization and the partition of India. After India gained independence in 1947, a new constitution was created for India by Indians and was adopted in 1949. It was built on top of the Government of India Act of 1935. In addition to heavily borrowing from the British constitutional framework, the Indian Constitution also borrowed features from the American, Irish, Canadian, Australian, German, Soviet, French, South African and Japanese constitutions, and various institutions were created to help realize this new constitution, which became the new Dharma Sutra for democratic India. Meanwhile, Pakistan, created as a result of the religious polarization injected by the colonial power, created its own constitution, built on a foundation of Islamic law. Till about 100 years ago, the belief among early historians studying Indian history was that India owed much of its signs of polity to the early European nation-states, especially the Greek. However, the study of Dharma Sutras and the discovery of texts like Kautilya's Arthashastra in 1905 proved that India had an independently developed science of polity from over 2000 years ago, and the Hazur copper plates, with its details on Parthivasekarapuram Salai, provides a window into this ancient past and bears witness to the evolution of the science of polity and its education in the long history of India.